The beacon's flame flickered against a bitter wind, its glow a fragile shield above the windswept plains. At 10 years old, Nora carried a bundle of kindling in her small arms, her hands chapped and raw beneath a frayed scarf. The signal pyre perched on a rocky hill overlooking the prairie settlement of Windfall, guided wagon trains through the vast, unmarked grasslands. Without it, travelers would lose their way, supplies would falter, and the town would wither. Nora had tended the fire every dusk since Pa disappeared into the frontier, his horse never returning from a scouting trip. Her boots, patched with canvas, sank into the frost as she climbed, her breath clouding in the twilight chill. Ma's fever had worsened, and the larder stood nearly empty. Nora didn't cry any more tears, didn't light fires, or ease Ma's coughing fits. She arranged the kindling, struck her flint, and watched the flames catch, their light cutting through the gathering dark. She scanned the horizon, searching for PA's silhouette, though the townsfolk whispered he'd been taken by bandits or lost to the wild. The beacon blazed, steady as a promise, and Nora turned for home, her lantern swinging faintly. A shadow moved at the hill's base. A man, tall, his coat dusted with prairie dirt. His face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, but his voice carried low and rough like distant thunder. "You're out late, girl. All alone." Nora's heart raced, her grip tightening on the lantern. "I manage," she said, her voice sharp despite the tremor. "Ma says strangers ain't to be trusted." The man stayed still, hands loose at his sides. "Fair enough. That fire's a heavy load for someone so small. Need a hand?" I said, "I manage." Nora hurried down the path, her light bobbing, and didn't glance back until she reached the side-roofed cabin at Windfall's edge. Smoke curled weakly from the chimney. Inside, my Lady Ellie under a threadbare blanket, her coughs rattling like dry leaves. Nora stoked the fire, not mentioning the stranger. Ma had enough to bear. From the hill, Elias watched. He'd seen the girl's determined steps, her too-thin coat, the way her eyes searched the plains as if they owed her answers. That look grief carved into a child's face echoed his own. A former scout, Elias, had come to Windfall to vanish, haunted by the family he'd lost to a raid on the trail 5 years ago. The girl, the cabin, the fading woman inside, they stirred something he'd buried deep. He'd sworn never to care again. Some oaths, he realized, were destined to break. The next dusk, Nora found the beacon already lit. Her breath caught. The stranger Elias, he'd called himself, stood by the woodpile, stacking logs. His coat was patched but clean, his face lined with years, perhaps 35, his eyes carrying the weight of old losses. "What are you doing?" Nora demanded, clutching her lantern. "Saw you hauling kindling yesterday," Elias said, his voice calm. "Thought I'd help keep the signal burning." "Ma, don't take two strangers meddling," Nora said. But her arms ached from the climb, and the truth was, she was bone-tired. "Ain't meddling," Elias replied, feeding the fire, "just helping a neighbor." Nora hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but you walk me home." "I don't trust you yet." Elias's lips twitched, the first sign of warmth in his guarded face. He carried the lantern down the hill, setting it by the cabin's door. Through the window, he saw Lydia, her face pale but proud, dignity holding her together despite illness. The bare shelves told a story of want. "Got folks to help?" he asked Nora quietly. Town don't care much, Nora said, her voice bitter. "Say Ma's cursed 'cause PA wasn't one of their own. He came from the Riverlands, not their precious plains." Elias nodded. He'd seen towns shun outsiders, blaming love for their troubles. "I'll camp nearby," he said. "Keep an eye out." Why? Nora's eyes narrowed. Elias looked to the plains, where stars blinked like distant fires. Sometimes a stranger's all you got. Asterisk. He made camp in a gully below the hill, a rough shelter of canvas and branches. That night, he pulled a locket from his coat, a faded image of a woman and girl. His wife and daughter, lost to raiders while he scouted the trail. 5 years he'd wandered, guiding no one. Maybe it was time to stop. Asterisk. Lydia heard the hammer's rhythm and felt her pride splinter like the cabin's sagging door. A week had passed, and Elias had mended the fence, hauled water from the creek, and now worked on the woodpile for the beacon without asking. Nora trailed him, chattering about prairie dogs and windstorms, her face brighter than it had been since PA vanished. He brought oats, Ma, Nora whispered one evening, and salt pork. Even tea. Lydia's hands trembled, not just from fever, but shame. They were charity now, everything she'd fought against. When Elias set down the hammer, she called from the doorway, her voice thin but fierce. "What do you want from us?" Asterisk. Elias paused, hammer in hand. After a long silence, he said, "Lost my family to raiders. Wife, daughter, 5 years back. Been drifting since." His voice cracked. "Can't just walk past you two." Cast. Lydia's anger softened. She knew that grief, the kind that hollowed you out and left you adrift. She'd felt it when Thomas's horse came back riderless, when the town turned their backs. "Stay," she said, "but you eat with us. No more sleeping rough." Asterisk. That night, they shared a simple meal-oat porridge and pork, the tea bitter but warm. Nora begged for stories, and Elias told of tracking a lost wagon through a dust storm, surviving a flash flood in a canyon, guiding a family to safety across the plains. His voice warmed as he spoke, and Lydia saw the man he'd been before loss reshaped him. Asterisk. "Will you stay till spring?" Nora asked, eyes bright with hope. Asterisk. Elias looked at Lydia. She nodded slightly. "I'll stay," he said. Asterisk. Later, in the lean-to, Elias set his locket beside a prairie flower Nora had given him, past and present, side by side. He slept without dreams of blood for the first time in years. Asterisk. The town noticed. Elias rode into Windfall for supplies, and whispers followed. The storekeeper, a lean man named Carver, refused service until old widow Tate intervened. "His coin's good, Carver. They need help." Elias bought flour, oil, herbs for Lydia's cough. He heard the murmurs how Thomas had been an outsider, how his marriage to Lydia was improper, how a sick widow couldn't raise a child. Asterisk. At the livery, he overheard Carver and preacher Dunn plotting. "Unfit mother," Dunn said, his voice oily. "That girl needs a proper home. My cousin's willing to take her." Carver nodded. "In that Beacon Hill. Prime for a new trade post." Asterisk. Elias's hands clenched. He'd seen greed masked as piety before. Back at the cabin, Elias unloaded supplies while Nora chattered about a hawk she'd seen. Lydia looked stronger, her cough quieter with proper food and medicine. They'd settled into a rhythm: meals, stories, shared work under the vast prairie sky. That night, Nora asked for another tale. Elias told of delivering a trader's baby during a blizzard, miles from a doctor. "Were you scared?" Nora asked. Asterisk. "Terrified," Elias said. "But fear means you've got something worth fighting for." Asterisk. Lydia met his eyes across the firelight. Not love yet, but his foundation. Trust, respect, the first sparks of hope. Outside, a shadow moved. Carver's man, watching from the ridge. Elias saw him while fetching kindling, his hand twitching toward a knife he'd stopped carrying. He'd set it aside weeks ago, trying to be someone new. Maybe that was a mistake. Asterisk. Lydia knew she was falling for him. Worse, Nora already had. April brought a thaw, the prairie blooming with green shoots. The cabin's garden sprouted, and Nora planted wildflowers by the path. One evening, with Nora asleep, Lydia and Elias sat by the fire. Thomas was a dreamer, Lydia said softly. Loved the open land, loved me. The town never forgave us. After he died, they've been waiting to take Nora, saying I'm unfit. Asterisk. Elias stared into the flames. I was a scout once. Lost my family when raiders hit our camp. I was scouting ahead, too far to help. Came back to ashes. His voice broke. Quit the trails that day. Couldn't save them. So what was I good for? Asterisk. You think you failed them? Lydia said, her hand brushing his. I think you loved them so much, it broke you. Okay? Asterisk. Maybe some things heal, Elias said. Not perfect, but enough. Asterisk. Their hands stayed close, the fire warming the space between them. Nora woke to find them like that, smiling for the first time since PA. Outside, the beacon burned steady, slight a promise to the plains. Asterisk. The town came with papers and judgment. Carver, done, and a nervous deputy arrived at noon, the prairie stretching endless behind them. Nora clung to Elias's hand as they dismounted. Mrs. Wren, Carver began, his voice slick. We're here about the child's welfare. A widow living with the Drifteritz improper. Asterisk. Elias stepped forward, his voice low, but dangerous. This ain't about Nora. It's about that hill you want for your trade post. Asterisk. Carver's smile didn't falter. The child needs stability. My sister's prepared to take her. He waved papers. And you, Mr. Holt, have a record assertion after that raid. Asterisk. Lydia's face paled. You're stealing my daughter for profit. Asterisk. The deputy shifted uncomfortably. There's a report on Mr. Holt. Minor charge, but enough to question his influence. Asterisk. Nora sobbed, her small hand trembling in Eliza's. He felt Lydia's world crumbling. You're using a child to steal land, he said, addressing the crowd gathering behind. You know it's true. Asterisk. Widow Tate stepped forward. Is it, Carver? That hill's not yours to claim. Asterisk. Carver blustered, but voices rose. Traders, farmers, tired of greed. The deputy relented. The charge is minor. Pay a fine, register your stay, and it's done. Asterisk. I will, Elias said. Carver stormed off, his plans unraveling. Asterisk. The confrontation shifted something in Windfall. The townsfolk, shamed by their silence, began to help. Widow Tate brought blankets, and a farmer named Hollis shared seeds for the garden. The beacon hill remained Lydia's, its fire a symbol of their defiance. Elias paid the fine, his past laid bare, but no longer a chain. He'd face whatever came, but he wouldn't run. Asterisk. Spring turned to summer, and the prairie bloomed with wildflowers, gold and purple carpeting the hills. The cabin's garden flourished, Nora's wildflowers lining the path like tiny beacons. Lydia's health returned, her laughter mingling with Nora's as they worked the soil. Elias courted her quietly, bringing her small gifts, a carved wooden bird, a bundle of sage. The town preacher, chastened by Carver's disgrace, agreed to marry them in autumn, a simple vow under the open sky. Asterisk. Nora called him P.A. now, each word mending a piece of him. They walked to the beacon together, Elias carrying the kindling, Nora skipping ahead with her lantern. Tell the story again, she said, about when you first saw me. Asterisk. Elias knelt beside her, the fire crackling behind him. Saw a brave girl keeping the light alive, and I knew I'd found my home. Asterisk. They stood by the beacon, its flame cutting the dark. Lydia joined them, her hand in Elias's, her old wedding band Thomas's, given with blessing, catching the firelight. The hill, once a place of toil and loneliness, had become their gathering spot, sacred and joyful. Three souls, broken apart, now hold together. Asterisk. Inside the cabin, the fire would soon be lit. The lean-to held supplies for their first harvest, the land stretching green and promising toward distant peaks. Some families are born, others are built, one flame at a time by strangers who become fathers, by children who teach courage, by love that refuses to flee. The girl was never alone again. None of them were.